who are present over this webinar. So let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Anup Kulkarni. And first of all, I would like to thank SDFC Credila for organizing this wonderful session where, they have set up a very nice platform where, there are a lot of speakers who can interact with of students who are really, interested in making career. And I think they are very expert in education loan as well. So to begin with, I think let me tell you about myself. So what I do, basically, I'm a director of Ignicio Zealous, where we, send students abroad for the foreign education. At the same time, I work as a research scientist in the field of biotechnology. So those who are in the field of biotech, they can understand me. So I work in the field of vaccines and clinical research. Uh, Currently, we are also working on this COVID-19 issue. We are trying to come up with some diagnostic kits as well as some possible solutions which can possibly cure this corona pandemic disease, which is spread worldwide at the moment. There are so many questions which have been asked by prospective job candidates who are looking for jobs, students who are actually willing to go abroad, and many companies also, because they want to do business outside India, and they are asking what is the future of different sectors. So I thought, why not to talk about that, because this current situation is not really encouraging, and you all are aware of that, what I'm talking about. So it's all about COVID-19. So I thought, let's have a webinar on effects of COVID-19 on the global economy, and how that can open some opportunities for you guys who are still in the phase of your studentship, and who are aspiring to go abroad, but still you are confused what to do, because it's a kind of a tricky situation. So I thought, let's have kind of a seminar which can we can discuss all these issues. So we know the current scenario of COVID-19. So it's all about causing lots of problems all over the globe. It is expected that this pandemic disease would cost global economy around more than 2.5 trillion dollars. All the countries are suffering. uh, we are not an exception, being an Indian. Everywhere the cities are locked down. People are not allowed to walk, businesses are shut. People are struggling to get groceries, and everything. Even medicines are not still available. So we don't even have a vaccine at the moment, and the disease is spreading like anything. Every day we are getting figures which are not really encouraging. So we don't really think it's going to stop for a while. That's what the all situation is all about. And because of that, it's going to cost a lot in terms of business, and economies are going to get down. And if you're talking about how this is going to get hampered, then it's going to be a disaster situation. So there are so many models which have been suggested by so many economists. So I'm not an economist, so, but this one is something I felt it's a good one to showcase what kind of economy slowdown can happen, considering all the possible effects of COVID-19. This slide, which is in front of you, is showing all the major countries in the world with high GDPs. They are going to slow down like anything. And these are in like percentage points. So you can see US, which is struggling at the moment like anything. More than 50,000 people are dead by today, till today rather, I would say. And plenty of people are still infected, and this number is rising. China, it started all from China, unfortunately, and so the Chinese economy is also suffering, and other major countries like European economy, especially Germany, UK, Switzerland, and all these countries are also suffering because of the economic recession, because of this COVID-19, and because of the lockdown also, because all businesses are shut. So it's not an encouraging situation, but we have to understand which sectors are affected. And I have to say that almost every sector is affected, because nothing is allowed. Everything is locked down. So this effect in the industries might be twofold, threefold, or more than that. It's going to affect both annually and short-term liquidity also. And the major sectors which are affected are tourism and travel. As we all know, all the airlines are aviation industries have asked not to have journeys across the countries. So all the airline industries and retail industries, tourism industries are strongly hit on both the fronts. Then automotive, logistics, oil and gas industries have the similar blow to the short-term liquidity, but we suspect that they can demonstrate greater ability once this crisis will end. We don't know how long it will take, but once this crisis is over, we expect that these sectors will come back. The logistic industry, is a big one, and it's a big drop today because all things are shut down. But we expect, once it will rebound once the crisis is over, and it will take some time to catch up, to its normal. The next sector, which is oil and gas, which is again, going through a big crisis, and we expect some flexibility once this crisis is over because of the third-party oil field services. The biggest industry which is affected and which will be affected in the future also is the financial service industry. Uh, at the moment it looks it's less impacted, but once we go ahead, once the crisis is over, I think it will be affected very strongly because of the depreciation of distressed and bankrupt corporate financing. It's going to be big one and big loss, and because of that only we are expecting all the GDPs would be coming down like anything. Some of them would be suffering the worst ever in the in the history. And the next sector, which is very much interesting, it's my sector. It's pharmaceutical and medical sector is also impacted, but in a short term, of course, we can see its effects. But considering the current situation, you all know that we are actually exporting some good drugs like hydroxychloroquine to major countries in the world like US and other countries. So it will create good jobs in the future. And the whole situation will turn around pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical industries and medical industries or medical sector. So I'm going to talk about that in next few slides. So I believe all sectors, some sectors I haven't named here, but all these sectors have equally impacted because of this COVID-19 global pandemic disease. If I want to plot a graph, which we call as a impact matrix, and I am going to call it as an impact coronavirus or COVID-19 impact matrix, it suggests that all tourism and travel, airlines and retail industries, excluding FMCG, will be badly hit on both liquidity and profitability fronts. So we have two fronts, which one is the profitability impact and the other one is short-term liquidity impact. So these three sectors, which you can see in the red zone, are going to be badly hit in coming future also and now also. The financial services are also going to suffer a lot. But if you see on the other side, there are a few sectors which will be impacted or which are impacted, but they have a capacity to rebound back in next 1 to 2 years. Of course, we cannot predict exact date and time because we don't know. It's just a prediction. But it's a good prediction because we still can see a lot of movement in these sectors, and considering all these situations and projections, we believe that all these sectors can go ahead and rebound back. So one of the important sectors are pharma and meditech, medical technology, then construction sector, mechanical engineering. I'm going to talk about mechanical engineering today because it's going to play a major role, including electronics. So I'm going to talk about automations, and then they'll be less impacted considering all other sectors in the world. And then the other ones are oil and gas, automotive and logistics. They will be impacted, but again they can come back in the due course of time. So I think you can see now, you can get a sense, because this situation is not going to stay forever. That is what we have to understand, because we have had so many 3-4 major recessions in the back, and we saw the consistency or inconsistency also in how, in terms of how these sectors can come back and rebounds and start doing its own functions. So this is it for the impact matrix. Now, if we want to understand the Indian scenario, then we have to understand which sectors are badly impacted and which sectors are less impacted. So here is how much the output of every major industry is reduced to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the first major sector which is impacted is airlines and hotel industries, about 80 to 85%. You can say it's more than that, depending upon how you're going to look at the figures. Then the next is auto and advanced industries. Then construction and real estate business is all shut down. Major of the cities, it's shut down. Textile industries, major textile industries are shut. The freight and logistics, 50 to 70%, still 30% is working. Metals and mining, yes, we can expect, we can see that 40 to 55% is affected. Oil and gas, power sector, consumer and retail, chemicals. The less impacted sectors are IT services, pharma industries, and telecom sector. Since IT sector is very less, because still it's going on. It's not like shut down completely, because people are working from home. Those of you who are actually working for some IT industries, you can actually correlate this particular thing. So it's a big disaster at the moment. We cannot really say it's everywhere, it's dark. But John Rockefeller, he's one of my favorite author, and he was one of the famous person who used to write lots of articles, and you can always refer his its thoughts and quotes over the internet. And the one thing I really liked about him is the quote, "Try to turn the disaster into an opportunity." And this is something very interesting, because we have to understand what this disaster can lead us into. It can be an opportunity if we think in that perspective, or it can be darkness forever. But as he rightly said, we can actually find an opportunity if we try and turn the disaster in our angle. So let's try and understand the opportunities which might knock our doors in the coming days, but we should be prepared. We should not wait for those opportunities to come on our doors and knock those doors. We should be very much prepared for that. And I think I just thought I can give you very good statistics. I'm sure I'm sure you are not only knowing this, but you also are using these WhatsApp, Instagrams, and Uber and everything. Actually, they were founded in the last 2008, which was the one of the major recessions in the history of the world. So these recessions and disasters are the ones which can give us the good opportunity. So tune up, guys. This is something which is very, very important to understand. You should use this time to prepare for something which you think can knock your door, and you can actually work on that, and you can make a career out of it. So how this coronavirus crisis will redefine the jobs, this is something what we have to understand. And I genuinely believe, because I work in this sector of not only biotechnology, but also medical engineering, medicine, and some of the parts of automation. So things are going to change drastically, but it will take time. The entire course of the companies and their strategy management is going to change, because everyone is going to start thinking differently. And the best example is, I'm sure you must have read the news in the newspaper or in the news channels, that TCS is going to ask their 70% of the employees to start working from home. And they would have done this far before. We would have done this far before, but the way we Indians work is slightly differently than how the Western countries work. But this is going to happen. Still, every company will be looking after the full productivity by less investments. Yes, and less investments are very important, because now everyone will be more alert, because anything can happen. And I think this COVID-19 has taught a very good lesson to every one of us. So these sectors, I believe, can rebound back. It's not that the some names are not there, of course, because in the 40 minutes or 45 minutes presentation, it's quite difficult to talk about every sector. But of course, in the question answer session, I can speak about any specific sector that if you want to. But the sectors which will bounce back is the medical sector, which includes biotech, biomedical engineering, medicine, pharmacy, pharmaceutical sciences, and different sectors. Engineering, um, I believe civil engineering will also be a very important sector, because in the developing countries like India or even Australia, I'm considering Australia as a developing country. Some of the parts are still like very much important, and they are still developing. So civil engineering sector will be in a place, but not like typical road building and everything. They will be having different sectors like tunnel engineering, for example. In civil engineering, I'm talking about geotech, water security engineering, and other sectors. So civil engineering can also be one of the sectors which can come back. And the most important is mechanical and electronics engineering, because these two sectors will be looking for, they will leave their traditional path, and they will start thinking, what kind of interdisciplinary research they can do. And I'm going to talk, and going to give you one example where I'm working on at the moment. It is in terms of automation. So everything is going to get automated. And if you are the person who will be expert in automation, then I think, you have pretty good chances of getting absorbed by, these good companies. Never dying sector, agriculture and food. It's not going to die, because if it dies, then we are going to die. So agri and food sector, again, it's going to come back. It will not take more time. it has to come back, because more of our taxes would be coming from these two sectors. Engineering management, it's not just engineering, but engineering management, that is something, it's very important now, because every country is going to invest some other means, and they want to start doing different things in different countries. And for that, I think different sectors are really important. Maybe supply chain management, then engineering management, and different sectors which comes under engineering management can be the right sectors which has an ability to come back and create good jobs, and give hands to the economy. Business and finance, I think everything works on business and finance. So, but this is not going to be just bank finances, but these finances or businesses can be in terms of pharmaceutical industries, can be in the automation. So slightly the things are going to change. You might see these changes very quickly, or within next 5 to 6 years how the things will change. But business and finance will be another sector where you can grab your opportunities if you have a very strong interest in. IT and computer science, yes, it is very important, because without IT and computer science, no one can survive. It is the backbone of the economy, and it is the backbone of every industry that runs in the world. And then, hospitality and tourism. I know that it's not going to come back so soon, but it is one of the important sectors as well. So it has to come back. It will take due course of time. Once the vaccines are launched, gradually things will become normal. And then hospitality and tourism sectors, those who are actually planning to make your career, you can actually think about those sectors. It will come back. So this was all about how these companies or these sectors will come back in the market. But it's not going to be the normal life. It will change. The thinking is going to get evolved. The companies are going to start thinking slightly different. And I have an examples with you, uh, and it is in front of you on your slide. So employees, and what is happening around the world, you have to understand that employees in the apparel companies like Brooks Brothers and New Balance are now producing surgical masks and gowns. So they have changed their entire thinking, and they are coming up with the product which is actually required in the market. The companies, I'm sure everyone knows Tesla, everyone knows Ford, General Motors, have retooled their factories to produce ventilators from the car parts. And you can actually go on Google and you can actually understand what exactly they are doing. But this is something, that's what I'm trying to tell you. The things will change. It's not that the things will shut down, companies will shut down. Of course, they will not, because they cannot. But they will think in a different strategy. They will have a different strategy. They will think what exactly is required in the market now. And these are the examples which I told you. So it's all about redefining the things, considering the crisis. Once this crisis is over, of course, things might get back to normal, or we'll have some other more problems. This is just a COVID-19 we're talking about. Who knows, we'll have something else in the in the coming future. So uh, these big companies will have their plans ready. It's just that you should be ready with the companies, and you should be ready. You should know what kind of plans these companies can have, and you should be having the right skill sets to get absorbed in these companies. I think it's very important to understand the automation industry, because what is happening at the moment is the companies are not willing to take a risk by sending their employees to the company, and uh, started getting increasing chances of getting infected by this any viruses like COVID-19. And again, automation is something which is really important, considering the regulatory affairs, or some norms. Those who work in the life science sectors can understand what are the regulatory affairs. But automation is something which is very important, because it is not about just losing the jobs, but it can give you good chances. It reduces the automation actually reduces the manual efforts, manual errors, and at the same time it really saves the employees life when it comes to crises like COVID-19. So automations are something which will be coming in next 5 to 10 years in major industries. So those who are working in mechanical engineering and electronics engineering or electrical engineering, which are relevant fields, you can actually think automation as your career, in case if you're really interested, because this is going to change the entire course of time. So what exactly is happening around the globe is many big companies are actually sharing or exchanging their employees, considering their talent. And this is something I thought I should really talk to you about. we have to understand that we should have certain skill sets in order to become, or in order to have a nice job. And the best example is, now these companies are shut because of this COVID-19 pandemic. Many companies are not able to pay the salaries, and this is going to happen. This is really going to happen. They might have to reduce the staff, they might have to reduce the salaries. But what is happening, some companies are actually adapting the strategy. For example, this Kroger supermarket, they're actually borrowing the furloughed employees. Furloughed employees means those who are actually on the leave, or compulsory leave, whatever you can say. And they're actually taking the employees from Cisco corporation. And this Kroger supermarket is actually taking their employees, and they're using them for the wholesale food distributorship. So this is what is happening, and there are so many examples I can give. In China itself, more than 3,000 new employees from different 40 companies, or 40 different companies from different sectors have joined an employee sharing plan. And employee sharing plan is something where other company can hire you for some days, and they can actually make use of your talent. So this is something is going to happen. This is called as a reimagining of jobs, or reimagining the jobs. And it's also called as a sharing of employees in cross industry talent exchanges. Okay, so it all depends on talent. I'm not going to say that every employee will be hired by some other company. It's not going to happen. Okay, so every company, if I'm a company, I'm going to ask you what kind of talent you have that might help me in my own business for some days. And if you have the talent, you can easily get absorbed. If you don't have, then unfortunately nothing can happen. So let's try and understand what are the market projections for some of the major sectors that we already have discussed, like biotech, mechanical engineering, electronics engineering, and some other sectors. So first I'll start with biotech. Uh, Reason biotech is because it's a medical sector. It comes under kind of medical sector. And I'm sure you have been watching news in the television that many companies, in five to be more precise, five companies in India, they're coming up with some vaccines which might cure this COVID-19. And it's not just India. I think every developed country like United Kingdom, United States of America, some Australia, even China, they are designing their vaccines. So it's a big industry. It's a billion-dollar industry. And this trend, which you are looking on the slide, it was a projection before we got COVID-19. So this entire thing is going to change. It's going to get double, tripled, or even four or five-fold increase in terms of vaccine market projections. Because once the vaccines are launched, you can understand almost every person in the world has a chance, or will have a chance, to get infected by COVID-19. So ideally every person in the world might be needing this vaccine. So try and understand what is the population of the world, and then try and understand, even if the vaccine is 1,000, I think Serum Institute of India, which sits in Pune, they are coming up with the vaccine in collaboration with the Oxford University, UK, and they're suggesting that they might come up with the vaccine which will have a cost of 1,000 rupees. That's the least or cheapest product that Serum has launched. I'm sure the other vaccines in the world which will be released very soon will have very high price. So try and understand the population of the world, try and calculate how much revenues this industry can work. So it's a vaccine market projection. If you are from biotech or pharmaceutical industry, or pharmacy student, you can actually think of making your career in the vaccines market. Those who actually sits in food science, or some biologicals or life science students also can think about agri and food sector, because this is a very important sector. Because uh, food sector never dies. And since you can imagine 5 years before what kind of food you used to eat, and today's food what you are actually eating, there are so many advancements. There are a lot of food innovation. We used to have Cadbury which was of just one flavor. Today we have Cadbury's with multiple flavors. So things are changing, and to suffice the need of entire population, food market is some agri and food market are something which are really important in terms of economy, and in terms of populations, and in terms of GDP and creating jobs. There is something called as a nutraceuticals, which has a nutritional value apart from the taste and everything. So it has some medicine. So nutraceutical market is also increasing. You can see the statistics over here, 2017 and expected 2024. Okay, cumulative annual growth rate is more than roughly around 7%. So this is something which is expected. So again, think about it. If you feel you are the right person for this sector, you can always join that. Now I'm going to come to automation because I'm really focusing on automation. And automation is not just restricted to only one particular sector. Automation can be there in everywhere, every sector. Banks, ATM machine is nothing but a robotic process automation. You take any industry, mechanical industry, you can have automation. Food industry, you can have automation. Pharmaceutical industry, you can have automation. So automation is required everywhere. It's just like banking and finance. Finance is required everywhere. So the automation is also required everywhere. And if you see the total robotic process automation market, it's gonna be huge. And if you see the figures and the right hand side graph and expected projections in 2022 and 2024 and more than that, you can see what kind of rise it has. You can see 2016 figure and you can try and see the figure which is in 2022, and you can understand what kind of fold increase it has. It's because of automation. It's because every industry is now looking for automation, and especially after COVID-19, those who were just thinking about automation will definitely go for automation. And trust me, it's going to be very important sector in next decade. So automation, very important sector for me. Then if I'm talking about robotics, automations in different industries, then you can refer this right hand side, global robotics technology market by applications: healthcare sector, defense and security, aerospace, automotive, electronics, domestic, and different sectors. And you can see which are the leading countries in the world. Unfortunately, we are not amongst those, but the current government is actually helping the entrepreneurs to come and start, work on the automation sector. So, those who are students who are actually listening this webinar, you can actually, be a part of automation if you're really interested. Next sector, those who are from computer science, I'm just going to talk about big data today. So since we are having so much of big data, which is generated every day, and the beauty of big data is, there are so many advanced things like data science and, cloud computing and everything. And since it's a computer science field or IT sector, you can always imagine the kind of growth, even though everyone is talking about recessions and all, things won't stop. And you can check this figure. It comes from an authentic source of Statista, which is very considered as an authentic source. You can see the projection, 2011 versus 2027, 2027. And you can see it's, $103 billion US, US, $103 billion business. Even though this COVID-19 pandemic has happened, we expect there will be some recession for a while. People will be asked to work from home. They will have a different strategies. Every company will come up with that, in coming few days. Some people might lose their jobs, but again, after 2 years or a couple of years, things will again rebound back. And again it will start booming. So there are different sectors which comes under big data. We can talk about that maybe if you have any questions: data science, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and everything. So yeah, it is one of the important sectors, I believe. The next one is aerospace industry. I have this chart of 2017. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any recent ones. And this suggests that other countries like India, Eurasia countries, which are not advanced that much, still have a pretty good scope in aerospace industry. There are so many big companies in the world, also in India through the Make in India concept, which have started investing in India. So if you are a mechanical guy or electronics guy or electrical engineering guy, you can always try and understand this aerospace industry. If you have a pretty good interest in that, you can always go back and work for aerospace industry. It has a very bright future. I know aerospace industry's today's scenario is not that great because everything is shut, but once the vaccines are launched, things will resume. You can see the difference. You can see the share market rising up like anything, with the companies which had stocks, in case of aerospace sector. So I know that I cannot cover each and every sector because it's so difficult for in just a matter of 40-45 minutes talk. But your interest might be different, which I haven't covered in in this webinar or seminar, whatever. So you have to understand whatever is your interest. You have to understand what is the market projections for the next 10 years, because that is the one which is going to survive you. Okay. And especially if you're going for a master's, you have to understand where, in which field you have to pursue your master's in. So go on Google. There are so many, websites and forums where you can actually understand the market projections for your favorite sector. And whatever sectors I have just covered, I have told you where the job opportunities will be created. But it's not that every one of us are going to get jobs. And to reach to this position, to get to in order to get those jobs, you need to have only one thing, that is the appropriate skill sets. And that's what I keep talking in each and every of my seminar, because this is really, really important. Every industry will hire you only if you have appropriate skill sets. And we can discuss that maybe some other time, or over the other means, how to develop skill sets, because it's a skill sets which will increase your chances, will give you good packages, will give you a liberty to move from one company to other company. And there are so many things which can happen if you have good skill sets. If you don't have skill sets, even if you have good marks, 70, 80, 90%, still you're not going to get succeed. Okay. But even if you have a genuine decent marks like 60, 65% throughout, and if you have the relative good skill sets to your projects, to your trainings and everything, you hold pretty much good chances of getting good jobs in good industry with a good packages. So I think I'll now come towards study abroad part, because now I want to correlate two things. We have understood what is the current situation of because of COVID-19 pandemic. We have understood which sectors are affected. We have understood which sectors can, or which sectors has an tendency, or they can to come back in the market in coming days or coming months, or in maybe coming years, couple of years. The most important thing we have to understand is skill sets, and to develop the skill sets, those who are actually interested in going abroad, you have to understand very important thing is by doing a specific masters how you can develop skill sets. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about this slide, as it just tells you common reasons to go abroad. So these countries can be open for you. It's not only US or UK every time. There can be some other countries also, like France, Germany, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Denmark, Switzerland can be also the countries where you can go, to have your masters or bachelors. Those who actually have done their 12th, and if they're willing to go abroad, these can be the countries, even including USA. I'm slightly against USA. It's not because I'm biased against USA, but current situations in USA are not that great. But again, there are many students who go to US and they get pretty good jobs. So again, it depends on what exactly you're expecting from that country and from that masters. And if you have the right ability, you can survive anywhere. I think some of my students already know this slide, but assuming that there are few students who are very new to this thing, how to choose the country and how to choose the university. So I'm just going to wipe it up in next 2 minutes so that you can start asking me questions. I'm sure you must be having some questions to ask me. So there are these 3, 5, 6 things which you have to understand before you choose any country or university. First thing is stay back option. And this is really important now. I mean, I've been talking about this since from last 2, 3 years, but now this has a very important meaning, or this has a very different meaning now. Because the first is stay back option. And those who don't know what is stay back is something which is given, it's a period basically, it's a time which is given to you after you complete your studies in that country. They allow you to stay there for a specific period of time. Okay, suppose I go to UK, and then if I complete my masters, they allow you to stay there for 2 years. If I go to Australia, they might allow to stay for 3 years. If I go to Canada, it can be 2 to 3 years. If I go to US, at the moment it's slightly critical, because I get 90 days time frame, which is called as an OPT if your course comes under STEM process. And if you get this OPT, optional practical training, then you are allowed to stay there up to 5 years. But if you don't get anything within 90 days, you might have to come back to India immediately after completing the masters. Then the course and relevance. Again, it's very important, because you have to understand what course you are going to pursue and what is the relevance of that course in terms of giving you jobs. And this is what I keep bombarding and telling to my students. You have to understand the relevance, because you're not just going to do any course, but you are doing the course which might give you or might open the doors to big industries. So you have to understand which course you want to do, what is the job prospects of that course once I complete that particular course. World ranking, uh, I won't focus on world ranking that much. I have my own reasons for that, because you're going to, world ranking is given to any university based on different matter, different parameters. Let's say how big is your campus, how much funding you get, how many departments you have, how many international students you get, how many campuses you have. So based on different points, the world ranking is been decided. But you are going to pursue a course in the university, that to a specific department. Okay, so world ranking can be a good point, but don't consider world ranking as the only point while choosing the university. Consider the department ranking also, because department is something where you're going to complete your masters or degrees from. The next point is industry and research scenario. So you have to understand what kind of prospects you have after the completion of that degree. And you have to also consider what happens if I come back to India. You might have to come back with your own will, or against your will. Maybe you don't get jobs there, or maybe if you get married, if you have some other responsibilities, you might have to come back to India. In that case, you need to understand what that course can give me if I come back to India. Okay, so for example, bioinformatics, this is something which is a very unique course, which is when it comes to biotechnology. Bioinformatics have a tremendous scope in Western countries, but when you come to India, it doesn't have that much scope. Forensic sciences, for example, forensic sciences, it has a very good scope in in different countries, but not in India. So you have to understand what is the scope in India. Fees and scholarships, yes, that is very important, because it should have minimum fees and maximum chances of getting scholarships. Well, scholarships are given based on your merit, not just not any university sitting and is happy to give you scholarship. Well, they would be happy if you have good marks. Alumni record, you might want to check what the students are doing after the completion of this same course. You might find them on LinkedIn or Facebook or some other social platforms. And the 10-year plan, which I think I told you just before we started with this webinar, is you have to understand the market projections. You have to understand what exactly you want to go, you exactly want to want to do in the next 10 years. And that 10 years is they're very important, because that is something where you will develop your career. And to understand that, you have to understand what market can behave. Okay, well, COVID-19 can be some exceptions, but other than that, you can understand where the market is going, what kind of new technologies are being launched, and in which sector you want to go in. You should have your own valid reasons while choosing the course, considering a 10-year plan. So this is something I always ask my students to think about while choosing the country and the university. There are scholarships which are given to students. We can discuss this some other time, but all your things will be taken care of, or considered while giving the scholarships. Your overall performance, subject wise performance, your other activities, your practical exposure, which is very important. If you have a final year project in your bachelor's, then that will also be considered. And if you have a work experience, yes, that also will be considered if it is relevant. Okay, so if you don't have work experience which is related, then it is not considered. There is confusion which I come across every time, uh, when I talk to any students, is what is 1 year's masters and what is 2 years masters, and what is the meaning of MS and MSc. And sometimes there's something called as an MEng. So I want to just clarify that, and then we might finish this up. So first of all, there is no difference with MS and MSc. The European universities like to give a degree which is called as a MSc, where many times US universities, they offer a course which has a title of MS. Both stands for Master of Science. It's just the letter C that European universities add, but apart from that, there is no difference. So no company is going to ask you, why you have done MS? Why you have done MSc? We were expecting MS. Basically, it's the same thing. MEng, yes, there are some programs which are called as an MEng if there is an engineering application, but not necessary that every time MEng has to be there. Okay. And second very important thing is, don't look at these MS, MSc or MEng, and don't even look at the title of your masters. Every industry, while giving you a job, will ask you what you have learned in that masters and how that is relevant to that particular industry. They're not just going to see the title of the course. They will see the depth of the course. They will understand what you have learned in that course. Okay, so this is very important. So that is all about the first one. There are 2 years masters which are given by Australia, US, Canada, some German universities, and there are certain 1 year masters which are offered by UK, Ireland, and France to some extent, and some Switzerland sometimes. So what is the difference between the two? First of all, there is no difference. So let's understand what happens in 2 years masters. So in 2 years masters, what happens is, since students are coming from all over the world, universities believe that they want to start with some basic courses so that everyone will come to a common platform. And once that happens, the actual second year is the one where you learn advanced subjects and along with the project. That's what happens in the 2 years masters. In the 1 year masters, especially in the UK, what happens, the universities believe that you know the basics very well. So instead of wasting time on learning basics again, let's start with the actual courses. So that's what happens in the 1 year masters and 2 years masters. I have heard so many rumors that 1 year masters doesn't have any scope. Industries say that your degrees are not eligible and all. First of all, that is all fake. And I think I'm the right person because I have done 1 year masters. I've done PhD from the UK, and I'm working for at least 4 to 5 different companies in my field. So no one so far have asked me why I have done 1 year masters. It's all about what you have learned in that masters. It has nothing to do with the duration of your masters. And first of all these universities which runs 1 year masters, they are in the top 200 or top 100 in the world. Oxford University, Cambridge University, and all, they also run 1 year masters, and they have very, very high reputation, and their degrees are valid all over the world, including India. So I think that difference is, and now confusion is over. There are certain exams which you might have to go for: GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, and GMAT, and there are certain other exams like PTE and Duolingo English test and all. What I would suggest you not to think too much about these exams. First of all, finalize your country, finalize your university, look at the requirements of that particular course. If they're asking for any of these exams, you always can start preparing. I've seen so many students joining GRE classes randomly for no reason, and then they end up in going to UK where GRE is not at all required. So GRE is required only in specific countries, like only USA, to be more precise. That to 95% of the universities in US, they ask you for GRE. There are 5% of the universities in the United States, they don't even require GRE. So you have to understand what exactly you're looking for, and don't just waste your money in joining some GRE classes randomly, because you can use the same amount of money and do some trainings, or some internships or practical hands-on techniques, which might help you in getting more scholarships. So that's what I can say in this particular section. Well, I can just show you the kind of variety the courses are there in many countries like US, UK, Ireland, Australia. So there is a lot of variety considering different industries and different sectors and different job perspectives. Okay, so these are certain courses which can be offered in food sciences. Those who are there, you can always look at that. Those who are in mechanical, you can actually go for mechatronics. You can actually go for machine intelligence. You can go for machine learning. You can go for biomedical engineering. You can go for aerospace dynamics, aerospace materials, and different courses, robotics. Those who are from civil engineering, you can actually go for sustainability and water security engineering, tunnel engineering, water engineering, geotechnical engineering, construction management, water waste and environmental engineering. So these are the sectors which will be having a very, very strong future. Those who wants to go for business, there are so many courses in business, not only restricted to finance, HR, and marketing, but there are so many other courses like international management, business with law, business with economics, business with marketing management, financial management, international management, and so on. So you can always try and understand what sector you are targeting and then choose your courses accordingly. So with this, I think I want to stop.